And this is tape 2. I'm trying to move this around so I know which one tape to put up, and I don't delete it because I can't load. Uh, if I can't load 2, 3, or 4, so mine's a cheap phone. Now I got that. I can go back this number. Yeah, okay. I've been putting up about the Watergate hearings back in, well, gosh, let me go back here. It was 72 when, well, I could have gotten this out, I guess. Been more organized so I wouldn't be called demented. I wanted to give this. Okay, on the water 18.5 minute gap, which was role played when I worked for the district attorney, Fred Simpson, Madison County, Huntsville, Alabama Space Center. In 1980, they role played it there, and I could remember this and when, and I lived at Westgate, on Highway 5 going out to Powder Spring. Had the home that was the only really nice one I had. I didn't get to live in castles, and because my mom and father, Edward VIII, were taken out and replaced by the Freemason Illuminati with lies. Wallace Simpson married a double, not my father, an imposter. And today, that's your media is so corrupt. The people, they need handcuffed, and people put them up there and ask them in demand, why have you not told any of this? And if you didn't care about me, you could care about your own people that might be affected with this mind control that's going on. And now then it can be done in masses and armies. You can control them. And it's bannered around with corporate heads. It's done with, I can't give you all the ins and outs, with communication satellites. It's a signals they teach you at a low level. This has been going on a long time with the ham sets. Remember years ago? Teach you the Morse code. And at a low level frequency, you're not aware you're getting. So, hey, to heck with civil rights and invasion of privacy. Went out the window a long time ago. So anyway, that's how subliminal works. And they talk about behavior modification. Okay, this is modifying your behavior and making you act in ways you would never act. And then they like to spill this myth that they can't make people do things they don't want to do. Excuse me, that's the biggest lie ever hatched out of hell. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm tired of this crap. A long time ago, I've hurt. My children have suffered. To heck with trying to be edit myself so I don't offend somebody. Because this might have affected your son, the Parkland in Florida, the shooting. And then they come up with the great idea that they're going to replace or put teachers there to have guns. Well, the teacher can be programmed to come out shooting the students. What you going to do then? The pilot on the plane, the KAL, was programmed to fly into Soviet or Russian airspace, and Larry McDonald, Congressman Doctor, go down, that I wrote about, was almost killed. He's a congressman, you'd think, and doctor at Piedmont there. It was supposed to be on the plane from Juneau, Alaska to Seoul, South Korea in August the 31st of 83. I've been told that the plane, well, this is common knowledge, it's not just me, has raised this, that they took the whole plane down to make it appear that McDonald was on it. And you've never heard from him again, but he was part of the Illuminati. You wouldn't hear that either. He certainly was. But Nixon was on that plane. Now you got the Nixon input here with Larry McDonald. In the endorsement that Larry Flint did, April of 84, I'd run in the campaign to replace Larry McDonald. When the plane was supposed to go down, Nixon was taken off that flight, but Larry McDonald was supposed to have remained on there and gone down. Big joke. Anyway, Nixon, Larry Flint was shot by a program shooter in Lawrenceville, Georgia, when I was doing the book in 78, living at Moonraker, and then up at, well, I lived at Treetop first, and Moonraker, and then Laurel. Oh, for goodness sake, Laurel Hill. Oh my goodness, I'm going blank this morning. I can't hear. That's one thing. I've got infection, ear infection. Don't let me get. Well, I'm not even going to think. That back to flying into airspace. You program the pilot and that to fly off into oblivion, into the side of the mountain. And there's been a couple of those. Look back in it. There was one senator. I think he was from Alabama. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, his plane just flew into the side of the mountain. Then there was one up in Alaska that, anyway, I can't remember the names. Oh, I shouldn't start. Well, I shouldn't. Yeah, I should. Uh, I'm putting this up and I'm not getting paid for it. In fact, it's what the press should be telling you, people. And I want to mention this is a Marion there, and there is um, well, I'm going blank here. Well, maybe I don't need to put people's names up. They have been very nice, um, and they have on there. Thank goodness for a few nice ones, right? And two men that are very nice on YouTube. But anyway, where'd I get to? The plane. Then they're going to put flight marshals on the plane. As security. Well, they can make them come out shooting. They're programmed. The programming you can do to anybody now, and heaven help us if you have someone like me or Edward Snowden come out and he just touched the bottom of they get locked up like the hero, Julian Assange. Look what's been done to him, this man, for telling the truth. So now I want to get to this. The Watergate, that's when Henry Kissinger, out of the Oval Office, had me in Atlanta, Gonzales, and there at that little medical clinic. It was still there in December of 92. Okay, so people have to know about this, the trolley tracks and all that. I was taken there in 72, and prior to that, I've told what happened to me and where I was taken, and Gonzales. And he's still in practice, and his son went to medical school, so they've lived a charmed life. Been the biggest cold-blooded killers going, along with these I'm talking about. He was one who took me there, drugged me, and the doctors were waiting, and they were going to lobotomize me if... and Henry Kissinger was on the 18.5-minute gap that was subpoenaed by the Watergate Commission Committee. And Nixon and all these people get involved, the Watergate break-in. Well, it came right out of the White House, and Kissinger was right there with Nixon. And who's the other guy that suddenly said, I'm in control now? What was that guy's name? He's been deleted from history almost. Anyway, Henry Kissinger was on that 18.5-minute gap that you never got to hear. Wouldn't you like to hear my version of it? This is the truth. Would you? Really? Or call me demented when you can no longer deny it? And I hope that happens. Now then, here was a bit of a connection that gets whatever you want to deny. You can deny this so long as it's not before God that you all say you believe in. And then it's a whole different story. And if anybody gets mad at me, excuse me, I still like the ones that are in there and not pretending to be hypocrites. Okay, Henry Kissinger was, I'm going to read this because Ron Ziegler, oh, you got the Watergate, and I'm making the statements that that's where I was laid out there on the table ready. If the Brits didn't cross Nixon's the president, their palms, and Kissinger is your Illuminati that helped kidnap me, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers, and God bless the Kennedys. They must think God's what? Well, I better not say anything, of what they must think he is to do all these crimes and think they're going to go right, slide right in there, and be rewarded for it. It may not be that way. Anyway, Kissinger is way up at the top of the list now on the Illuminati. He's the one that was either had his hand around her back or shaking hands with her close with Diana back in some years ago when she was up there in D.C. giving the charity and auctioning off for charity her beautiful gowns. Oh, me, I wouldn't have any clothes if you people hadn't sent me some the last few months here. Right? I won't say her name. Thank you. Um, Anyway, his words to her were, and I had this article, I wish I could have kept it. It was, I think, to Diana. He said, I think you should be queen. Well, they took down my father and my mom and kidnapped me. Victoria II brought me over here. And what he deleted there was saying, and hey, I even had your real queen, Victoria II, laid out there, going to lobotomize her if you didn't cross our palms, if the Brits didn't cross our palms with ransom money. Deleted that, just like the press does. Hey, don't want to tell that, the truth. Okay, that's Henry Kissinger. Okay, Kissinger was Secretary of State and at one point Secretary of Defense under Nixon. Now, Nixon and Ron Ziegler had homes out on Highway 5, going out of California south. I was on that one time, on the Greyhound bus. Now then, I wanted to get to Ron Ziegler. Now then, the next thing I was talking about Ron Ziegler, when I had run in the campaign to replace Congressman Larry McDonald in '83 and flown out to Mr. Flint's Hustler magazine that had been shot. Now people are gonna say, "Ooh, Hustler magazine, pornography." I hope you get to see all this, and I hope the world does. And I want to hear you say, "Who's ooh?" anymore. I don't like pornography either, but if this is ever shown, oh my God, and much less they're prosecuting, I'm gonna have to quit because I'm getting dizzy. Here is something. I'm allergic to chemicals. Okay, I want to get to Ron Ziegler. When I was up there working through, it was a temporary secretary agency or temp agency. Telesecretary out of Kensington, Maryland. You're getting the Kensington, as in Kensington Palace. Simpson, the DA, as in Wallace Warfield Simpson, was supposed to marry my dad, which was a lie. So you're getting into patterns. So Ron Ziegler, when I'm up there, and Larry Flint, I'm going to have to turn around this way. I'm toward the heat air thing coming out. I'm over there, I don't even have it on. But anyway, I got anyway, I'm not feeling good now. It hits me like a ton of brick. Suppose somebody will make something out of that. I'm talking to this beautiful woman that called me demented. Anyway, okay, Ron Ziegler, I was called out. I had an apartment briefly up there, about 6 months. And that was from November the 16th of '83 to March the 3rd of '84. And that's when the Hustler magazine came out and endorsed me for the presidency. And that's when Larry Flint said I knew who was responsible for his shooting in Lawrenceville, Georgia in '78. And that was a mind control shooting. The person was programmed. What I've been telling about, I thought people would like to know what was going on. And after all, you're not immune to it. Your children aren't. Anyway, that's when the magazine was sent to me there. And one of the FBI agents out of Atlanta, thank God there was some good there, called me up, and he had my phone number. They didn't. I hadn't been able to get back to Mr. Flynn. I didn't know he was in prison there for contempt of court up in Butner, North Carolina. Can you believe it? With the serial killers. They got Larry Flint, and he's been shot and all this. And the agent calls and said, hey, he told me, he said, he introduced himself. I'm not going to say his name again. He says, Mr. Flint is looking for you. He's so worried he doesn't know where you are. Well, of course they did. The car's there. He's just called me there on my phone that he wouldn't have, that he obviously had. And then I'm going blind. Oh, they'd sent the magazine there to me at that address. And it was sent from Minnesota, where Ventura was governor. Now, I don't think Ventura's connected with Hustler magazine or the FBI, but he did tell the truth about some of what the government's into and the mind control murders, like Martin David Chapman shot John Lennon. Well, I was working for the D.A. Simpson, so you can follow this. Mark David Chapman Mark is my son's name, who's there after me. David's my dad's name. The title is Edward VIII. My father was called David. And Chapman is the C in Childers. And by the way, the paper did run a photo in the Roanoke Times some years back, where Mark David Chapman actually lived here in Roanoke when he was on 9th Street, I believe, when he was a bit younger. And anyway, I'm going to leave it there because there's so many ties that come together, links. Now then, before this starts going off, because I got ear problem and everything, I wanted to put up the Ron Ziegler, if anybody's still with me here. Ron Ziegler was, I'm going to read this. I worked for him out of Secretary, out of Kensington, temp agency, during the time of November the 16th of 83 till March the 6th, or the 3rd, or 6th, I can't remember, of 84. I just repeated what the agent called me, and he called me from Hustler magazine. Sent the Hustler magazine to me there, where I was living across from Seven Corners and Falls Church. Okay, I'm just going to read this because Ron Ziegler, I was called out to his office, and I Googled this. I hadn't before, but I was Googling. He was press secretary. That was why I Googled. I'm going to read this last part if I can get it. This is where I worked for him for, I really don't remember if it was for a week or 2 weeks or what. But it was in Alexandria, so I was right about that, and I'm in Falls Church, and I still have the Hustler car. Okay, I was called out by telesecretary and here's who, it was, okay, I'll just read it here. It's got to be, but nobody doubts this. I couldn't make it up, for God's sake. And if I could, I'd be selling a book and not be sitting here in poverty, and except for what people have given me this last few months. Okay, here's Ron Ziegler, who was press secretary, and I think he stayed that all the time and was close, which gets me. He lived on Highway 5 in San Clemente, near Nixon. So I can't understand, unless he's deep throat, what he said to me when I'm working there during this time period. Okay, he served as president of the National Association of Truck Stop Operators. Now, this was the home office for that organization in Alexandria. I was right about that, next to the lake. I thought